Hi, this is Martin at Revelation Software, and welcome to the last but one video in my series looking at getting started with O4W. The topic today is going to be finishing up, which seems strange for a last but one video, but I've decided to leave the dashboard video as like an addendum to the series, primarily because the data set that we've been working with within the clinic application doesn't necessarily lend itself very well to showing off the dashboards. The examples application in OpenInsight is much better at that, so I'm going to cover that in a separate lesson after this one. So finishing up, we're going to be looking at completing our menu that we started at the very beginning of this series, creating a shortcut to run our application, and we'll just explore record locking very briefly. So let's go ahead and open up O4W in our clinic application. Now I've got all of my services and everything running, so we should be good to go. So we'll just log in, and we need to go in and create and modify the menu. The menu that we need to change is obviously our MP main menu, and very simply all we need to do is to define the link types. Now we don't need to do it for the top menu, but for the menu items we need to. So this is going to be running an O4W form, and the form that we're going to run will be the patient form. For the appointments, again that's an O4W form, and we're going to be run the MP apps. And then for my two reports, for the patient listing we'll choose O4W report, and this will be the patient report. And lastly we've got the report, and this one's going to be the appointment diary, which we're happy with. You can see there's lots of different options for these link types. You've got explicit URLs that you can run, so you might want to make a call out to your website. I could also have created a link back to the development tools within O4W. I could run a procedure, a dashboard, send an email, a click event, etc. But I'm quite happy with that for the moment, so we'll save that when we're done, and we'll click here to run the menu. And you can see that I've got my data entry forms, and I can go to my patients window, and we'll just do a search for Moran, the one that we've been working with throughout this series, and I get all of my information back, so I'm happy. And we can also navigate to the appointments form, and if we do a QBF lookup, and I'll say give me all records greater than 5, so it's fine, so I'll grab Mark Piper and QBF, and I can go to the next and the next. You'll see this changing, and I can also get back to the results. So all my QBF is working, everything is great there. And if we go into the reports and go to my patient listing, and we get 21 rows, I won't bother running those, but you can see that obviously these reports and the links are working fine. Now if I just go back to the design tools for the moment, as well as finishing up the menu, under the form menu we have got the ability to modify the layout and documents. So if I just go into modify the layout, and we'll pick our MP patient form and run that. I'm not going to move things around, but within this environment here I can select on these controls, and I can just click and move them around if I want to. Like I said, I'm not going to move them, but you can move the controls, or you can size the controls down the bottom here, and once you've actually changed them, then you can save that away. I spent quite a bit of time getting it nice, so I'm not going to modify those, but that's where you can do that. However, under this menu there is also document, and this is important, and as part of finishing up, what we really want to do is go into each of our windows, and we'll just run that, and O4W will produce a report that we can print out and keep on record of all of the changes that we made. So you can see here for the MP patient we've got the table that we're working with, our descriptions, our banners, our footers, the alignments. You can see that the links are to our website, how we are doing the record lookups, search fields, number of keys to display. You've then got the record modification information, the association grid properties, everything that we changed. Remember, we changed the table size, that's all in there, whether we opted for the buttons, the edit display fields and how we customize those. All of the information, lots of information about how our form is created is in here. So I would suggest that you print these off and keep them for the future, just as a future reference. I just come back up to the top. Under Reporter, again you've got the same for Document, and if we just go in and we'll grab the Appointment Diary, because that was the more complicated of the two, then again you've got your definition, the sort parameters, the search parameters, and the report details. So all of the information that you need is contained in that report. So printing off the documentation is very, very useful. Now while I'm in here, what I will also do is go back into the menu and we'll simply run that. And we'll take a little look at record locking. I've just gone into the O4W patient form and also the patient form in the desktop. I needed to resize these windows to get them on the video, so I've just done that offline. And if we're working away, let's say we go in and we bring back our Moran record, that's the one that we've been working with, and I can view that online. But back in the office, I get a user that also pulls up that record. Now we're both accessing the file, and we can make changes. So for instance, I'll go in here and just change the postcode and we'll save that. So yeah, I've just made a change to the record and I've got both on the system here, and I've got no messages about record locking. Now if you are coming from a pure OpenInsight point of view, that will seem strange, because within OpenInsight it takes care of, at the desktop level, it takes care of all the locking for you. Normally you'd now be getting this record is locked, what would you like to do? You don't get that in a desktop stroke web environment, because when we made the web request, the request was passed to OECGI, the engine. That then processes that request, queries the data, boxes it up, sends it back to the browser, and the engine shuts down. The connection with OpenInsight is effectively ended, because everything is now self-contained in the browser, like a sandbox. So we can go ahead and we can do whatever we want to within the two interfaces now. However, if I was to make a change in the O4W interface, so let's say that the postcode is, instead of AAA, it's now going to be BBB 1BB, for instance. And if I then try and save that, then I will now get the error message. And the reason I get that is because a change has been made to the database. When it tries to write it back, it's checking, it can see that there's a change or the record has been accessed. So it's saying, hold on a minute, we're unable to lock the record at this time. Do we want to create a new name for the record, in other words create a brand new one, or do we want to cancel, to discard the changes? So that's the way that OpenInsight works. I'm not going to get too much into record locking at this stage, because it's quite a big subject, and I'll leave that for the formal training. But you can see that your data is protected when you're working between desktop and the web. Right, so I'm just going to come out of all of these windows. Yes, I'll navigate away, I'm happy with that. I just want to have a look at the runtime shortcut that I've created. Now if I just go into the properties for this, I've created a simple shortcut which is going to be looking at localhost, or wherever the website is installed, the clinic application, OECGI3.exe, and then O4W menu question mark menu ID equals MP main menu. And basically what I did is I ran up the MP main menu in the design mode, ran the menu, and then just copied that URL. But you know, you could save it to your favorites or whatever. But that's basically the shortcut that I've created, and I changed the icon just to give it a globe. And now if we just click OK and we run that shortcut, I then get the application run up in Internet Explorer. I've been working in Firefox while we've been developing, but my default browser is Internet Explorer. So that runs up in Internet Explorer, and you can see that I've got my menu here, so I can go into my data entry forms and patients. I just made that a little bit smaller so you can see on the screen. I'll go in and select Moran and search, and it's working exactly the same way that it did before. I've got all of my information in here, but instead of getting access to the design tools, I'm now going straight into my forms, and also I can get access to my reports. It's working in exactly the same way, except we haven't got all of those items for creating and modifying reports and forms and putting out all of the documentation and everything else. So that's the way that I would obviously make my application available to users. Just put that shortcut on there and let them use them. So that's the end of this video series. During the series we took the clinic application that we'd pre-written within the desktop tools and we extended that to the web. Now interestingly, when I started to do the video series for the desktop, I had no idea that I was going to be doing a web conversion in O4W. So this really shows how easy it is to take something and move it to the web using O4W. You probably wouldn't normally web enable the whole of your application, because some parts of it you'll want to keep on the desktop in the office and just expose the data to the web that you want to give access to people that may be remote. So maybe remote salespeople for looking up client information, for customers looking up product information, or maybe tracking calls or projects or whatever. There's a million different reasons why you might want to make some of your data available on the web, and as far as I'm concerned, O4W is by far one of the easiest tools that I've used for taking business data to the web. I hope that this video series has shown you how easy the tool is to use and that it's piqued your interest. If it has, please download the evaluation software from www.revsoft.co.uk or revelation.com. You'll get access to all of the tools that I've used throughout the two video series, so all of the desktop tools and all of the O4W tools, and you can just follow through these tutorials and see how easy these tools are to use. And then if you want to talk to your local office, then me and my colleagues will be more than happy to talk to you about how the licensing works and any other questions that you might have. So, like I said, I hope you found these videos useful. I will always appreciate your feedback. You can email me at mp@revsoft.co.uk. Check out my blog. There's lots of information on there. And please just let me know whether these are useful and other topics that you might like me to cover at a non-technical or non-developer level. Remember, I'm more a power user than a full-on developer, but I'm still amazed at what I can create using this tool set as a power user. Anyway, thanks very much for your time today and throughout this series, and I will catch you again sometime in the future. Take care. Bye bye.